There is a moment silent, invisible, unfelt by the conscious mind when the universe casts its vote, not with hands raised in a bright assembly hall, not with voices echoing through marble corridors of power, but with something far older and far more certain. The stars align, the patterns shift, the quantum field trembles with recognition, and in that sacred, wordless instant, something extraordinary happens. Every force that has ever existed, every intelligence woven into the fabric of creation, looks at you specifically, deliberately, unmistakably at you and says yes, not maybe, not eventually, not if you fix yourself first. Yes, Al, as you are. The vote was unanimous. Every dimension voted in your favor. Every timeline that could have been cast its ballot and chose the one where you exist, where you rise, where you become what you were always encoded to become. You didn't apply for this. You didn't earn it through suffering alone. You were simply recognized. And recognition, in the language of the cosmos, is the highest form of selection there is. Most people walk through their entire lives without ever receiving the transmission. They are too busy looking down at their failures, at their flaws, at the gap between who they are and who they think they should be to notice that the signal has been broadcasting on their frequency since the moment they drew their first breath. The universe doesn't send its message through loud announcements or burning bushes on every street corner. It sends it through the quiet discomfort that rises in your chest when you shrink your self-defeat into spaces that were never meant for you. It sends it through the inexplicable feeling that something greater is waiting not somewhere out there, but inside you, pressing against your ribs, knocking on the walls of your comfort zone from the inside. That feeling is not anxiety. That feeling is not delusion. That feeling is the chosen one's frequency activating. It is your original signal trying to break through the noise of everything you were taught to believe about your own limitations. Let's talk about what it actually means to be chosen, because the word has been cheapened by centuries of misuse. People hear chosen and they think of golden thrones, of miraculous exceptions, of one person plucked from millions to receive divine favor, while everyone else is left in the dust. That is not what this is. Being chosen is not about being better than others. It is not a competition. It is not a hierarchy. Being chosen is about being assigned, being given a specific frequency, a specific mission, a specific architecture of soul that the universe requires in this exact time, in this exact place. In this exact historical moment, you were not chosen over anyone. You were chosen for something, and the something you were chosen for is so precisely tailored to the unique combination of your wounds, your gifts, your perspective, and your fire that no other being who has ever walked this earth could fulfill it the way you can. That is not arrogance. That is cosmological specificity. That is the universe being precise. Think about the odds of your existence, not in the abstract, motivational poster way where someone tells you that you beat 1 billion sperm. Go deeper, much deeper. The carbon atoms in your body were forged in the nuclear hearts of ancient stars that exploded billions of years before this planet even formed. Those atoms traveled across the incomprehensible dark of space and landed here, on this spinning rock, at exactly the right gravitational sweet spot to allow life. Life then spent 4 billion years, 4 billion evolving, failing, adapting, and refining itself until the precise genetic sequence that would become you was assembled through an unbroken chain of survival stretching back to the first single-celled organisms in the primordial ocean. Every ancestor in that chain lived long enough to reproduce. Every single one. One break anywhere in 4 billion years and you don't exist. The universe had to work at cosmic scale, across inconceivable stretches of time, just to produce the specific configuration of matter and consciousness that is you. And you think you might not be important enough. You think this might all be random chance. No, this is architecture. This is intention operating on a timescale that human ego simply cannot comprehend. But here is where the chosen one's journey gets uncomfortable. Here is where the spiritual teachers either soften the truth or avoid it altogether. Because this part doesn't sell as easily as the message of instant blessing. Being chosen doesn't mean being spared. It means being shaped. And shaping real shaping, the kind that produces something extraordinary, is not comfortable. It is not gentle. The sculptor does not caress the marble into its final form. The sculptor removes everything that is not the sculpture. Every chisel blow, every grinding pass of the abrasive, every deliberate act of removal that is the process. And the marble, if it could feel, would experience that process not as creation but as destruction. When you look at the hardest seasons of your life, the betrayals, the losses, the humiliations, the moments when you lay on the floor at 3 a.m. and couldn't find a single reason to keep going, were not being abandoned by the universe. You were being carved. You were being made into your final form. The chosen one is not someone to whom nothing bad happens. The chosen one is someone who, after everything bad happens, still rises, and rises differently shaped, clarified, forged. There is a concept in ancient spiritual traditions called the dark night of the soul. It has been written about by mystics, by poets, by philosophers, by everyone who has ever dared to walk the path of awakening seriously, and what every single one of them agrees on, from the Sufi masters to the Christian contemplatives to the Buddhist teachers to the Vedantic sages, is this: the dark night is not a punishment. It is an initiation. In tribal cultures throughout human history, initiations were deliberate. The elders would take the young person who was about to be recognized as a full member of the community, and they would put them through something difficult, something that stripped away the identity of the child and created space for the identity of the adult. Something that said, you cannot carry your old self into your new life. You must lay the old self down and walk forward lighter. The dark nights you have lived through, the ones you survived, when you had no logical reason to believe you would, those were your initiations. And the fact that you survived them is the universe's way of confirming the vote. You passed the test you didn't know you were taking. You qualified for the level you didn't know existed. I want you to think about someone in your life who you consider genuinely great. Not famous greatness and fame rarely travel together. Think of someone whose presence makes the room more alive. Someone who, when they speak, says things that stay with you for years. Someone who has looked at their own darkness unflinchingly and emerged still capable of love, still capable of hope, still capable of generosity. Think about what that person has been through, because I guarantee you I would stake everything on this. That person has not had an easy life. They have not been shielded from loss. They have not been given automatic success. They have been through something that should have broken them, and somehow it didn't. And because it didn't, they became the kind of person who can hold space for you when you are going through your version of the same fire. Their wound became their gift. Their darkness became their wisdom. Their survival became their service. That is the chosen one's template. That is the pattern that repeats across every culture, every century, every spiritual tradition. The wound and the gift are not separate things. They are the same thing, seen from different angles of time. Now let's address the voice. You know which voice I'm talking about. The one that has been with you since you first started to dream about something bigger. The one that shows up precisely when you are about to take the next step and says, "Who do you think you are? What makes you so special? You're going to fail. You're going to embarrass yourself. People will see through you. You don't deserve this. You're not ready. You'll never be ready." That voice is not your intuition. That voice is not the universe speaking. That voice is the accumulated static of every limiting belief that was ever downloaded into you by people who were themselves operating from fear, from smallness, from the wound of their own unlived potential. That voice is the guardian at the gate, and here is the secret that changes everything. The gate it is guarding is your gate. It appears precisely because you are about to cross into territory that belongs to you. It is most fierce, most convincing, most overwhelming. In the moments directly before your breakthrough, the intensity of the resistance is proportional to the magnitude of what's on the other side. The chosen one does not silence that voice through positive thinking. The chosen one does not pretend the voice doesn't exist, doesn't slap affirmation stickers over the doubt and call it faith. The chosen one looks at the voice directly with curiosity instead of terror, with compassion instead of combat, and says, "I hear you. I understand where you come from. I know you think you are protecting me, but I am going forward anyway." And then moves, because action is the language the universe responds to. The cosmos cannot steer a parked vehicle. All the divine guidance in the world, all the synchronicities and signs and downloads of inspiration, they are fuel that requires movement to ignite. You have to start moving before the full path is visible. You have to take the step onto what looks like empty air and trust that the bridge will materialize beneath your foot. This is not blind faith. This is informed trust, based on the evidence of every time you have been brought to a place of darkness and brought through it. Every time the right person appeared at the right moment. Every time you surrendered your plan and something better emerged. Surrender, that word makes people nervous. In a culture that worships control and personal agency and the hustle of forcing outcomes through sheer relentless will. Surrender sounds like weakness. It sounds like giving up. It sounds like the vocabulary of failure. But in the spiritual context, in the language of the chosen one's path, surrender means something entirely different. Surrender does not mean passivity. Surrender does not mean stopping. Surrender means releasing your grip on the specific outcome while maintaining absolute commitment to the direction. It means saying to the universe, I trust you more than I trust my ego's very small map of how this should go. Because your ego, brilliant as it is working with the information available from your position, from your past experiences, from your current vantage point. The universe is working with everything, every variable, every timeline, every connection and consequence, and ripple of cause and effect extending infinitely in all directions. When you surrender, you are not abandoning the wheel. You are letting a navigation system that has access to information your ego never could have plugged into the route. You are upgrading your GPS from personal limitation to universal intelligence. Let's talk about signs, about synchronicity, about the moments when the universe communicates in its preferred language, not words, but convergence. You think about someone you haven't spoken to in years and they call within the hour. You need a specific piece of information, and you overhear a stranger's conversation that contains exactly what you needed. You reach a crossroads, genuinely unsure which direction to take, and three separate, unconnected people in three separate conversations all say the same thing within the same week. These are not coincidences. The word coincidence is the mind's emergency exit when the implications of what is actually happening become too cosmically significant to process comfortably. Synchronicities are the universe confirming your direction. They are not random. They are responsive to your frequency, to your intention, to the alignment between your inner state and your outer actions. When you are on the path you were chosen for, the synchronicities increase in frequency and specificity. The universe leans closer. The signal gets cleaner. This is not superstition. This is the pattern language of a reality that is far more connected, far more responsive, far more intelligent than our materialist worldview has been willing to admit. There is something that happens to the chosen one that nobody warns you about. Something that is simultaneously one of the most painful and most necessary parts of the journey. As you evolve, as the shaping happens, as the initiation progresses, as your frequency rises, some of the people you love will not be able to travel with you. Not because they are bad people, not because you are better than them, but because you are changing at a rate and in a direction that creates a distance that genuine affection cannot always bridge. The relationships that were built on who you were, on your old limitations, your old fears, your old compromises may not have the structural integrity to hold who you are becoming. And this is devastating. This is one of the loneliest parts of the chosen one's path, because most of the people who reach the highest levels of their potential will tell you the same thing. The greatest price they paid was not in effort or sacrifice or risk. It was in solitude. in being misunderstood by people they loved, in growing out of rooms that once felt like home. But here is what is also true, and this is the part where the grief gives way to something else. As you ascend, as you become more fully yourself, as you stop shrinking and start expanding into your actual dimensions, new people arrive. People who meet you at your new level. People who speak your new language. People who see not only who you are now, but who you are becoming, and feel no threat from it. Only excitement. Your tribe is not the group you were born into. Your tribe is not defined by geography or genetics or social proximity. Your tribe is defined by frequency, and as your frequency rises, your tribe finds you. Some of them will have been waiting for you without knowing what they were waiting for. Some of them will arrive as strangers who immediately feel like home. Some of them will arrive through experiences so improbable that the only explanation is that they were arranged. This is the universe being efficient, clearing out what can't serve your mission and delivering what can. Trust the clearing. Trust the arrival. Both are acts of love operating on a time scale your grief cannot always see. We need to address purpose because one of the great confusions of the modern era is that purpose is a destination, something you find after enough searching, something that arrives fully formed with a label and a clear instruction manual. People spend decades saying, I haven't found my purpose yet, as if purpose is an object misplaced somewhere that they simply need to locate. But purpose is not found. Purpose is revealed gradually, through action, through attention, through the accumulation of moments when something inside you lit up and said yes. More of this. Purpose reveals itself in the intersection of three things. What breaks your heart about the world, what brings you alive when you do it, and what comes naturally to you that is genuinely difficult for most others. That intersection, the place where your pain, your passion, and your gift meet, that is where your purpose lies. And the chosen one's path is the ongoing, lifelong project of moving toward that intersection, spending more time in it, and eventually making it the center of gravity around which your entire life is organized. There is a reason the chosen one theme appears in virtually every culture's mythology, every tradition. Every civilization that has ever existed has its version of this story. The hero called to a journey they didn't seek. The ordinary person revealed to have extraordinary potential. The one who descends into the underworld and returns transformed. The one who faces the impossible and, through the facing of it, changes everything, not just for themselves but for everyone around them. This pattern is not coincidence. This pattern is not cultural borrowing. This pattern is embedded in the structure of human experience because it is describing something real. It is describing the actual shape of individual transformation. The hero's journey is not a metaphor. It is a map. And if you look at your own life honestly, without flinching, without editing, you will see the map. You will see the call you received and initially refused. You will see the mentor who appeared when you were ready. You will see the trials and the allies and the enemy that turned out to be internal. You will see yourself at the threshold you are standing at right now. and you will understand. You are not observing the myth from the outside. You are living it. The chosen one carries something. This is important to understand, not as a burden to resent, but as a responsibility to honor. Every person who rises, who becomes what they were meant to become, who steps fully into their chosen mission, carries something forward that would otherwise be lost. They carry the proof of possibility. They demonstrate, through the evidence of their own transformed life, that transformation is real, that the limits people accepted as permanent are not permanent, that the darkness people believed was the final word was never the final word. When you rise, when you refuse to stay small, when you do the terrifying thing, when you build what you were given the blueprint to build, you are not just changing your own life. You are sending a signal. You are altering the field. You are giving permission to everyone who is watching, consciously or not, to consider that maybe they too have been chosen. Maybe they too have a mission. Maybe they too can rise from where they are. Your becoming is never only about you. The chosen one's transformation is always a transmission. Let's talk about doubt, specifically the doubt that sounds the most convincing. Not the obvious doubt, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, because most people have learned to at least partially argue against that one. The dangerous doubt, the one that takes the longest to dissolve, is the one that says, maybe I'm not as special as I think. Maybe I'm deluded. Maybe the feeling that I'm here for something bigger is just ego dressed up as spirituality. This doubt is sophisticated because it disguises itself as humility. It sounds like self-awareness. It sounds like the antidote to arrogance. But true humility is not the denial of your gifts and your mission. True humility is the recognition that the gifts are not from you, they flow through you. True humility is saying, I didn't generate this, I received it. I am the vessel, not the source, and because I am the vessel, it would be the height of arrogance to refuse to let what was placed in me be expressed. The misuse of the gifts, that is ego. The use of the gifts in service, with gratitude and responsibility, that is the chosen one's right relationship with their own power. I want you to sit with something for a moment. I want you to consider the possibility, truly consider it, not dismiss it reflexively that everything you have been through has been preparation, not punishment, not random suffering, not evidence of a universe that is indifferent to your pain. Preparation, the relationship that ended in devastation, taught you something about yourself that no comfortable relationship could have revealed. The failure that humiliated you cleared you of the false confidence that would have caused a larger failure later. The period of isolation when you felt invisible and forgotten was the time when the deepest layers of your character were forming, unseen by anyone, gathering the density and clarity that your later work would require. You could not have gotten here to this exact threshold, with this exact understanding, with this exact readiness without every single thing that happened. The path is not random, it is precise, and when you look backward from where you are standing now, you can begin to see the precision, the pattern, the unmistakable intelligence of a journey designed specifically for what you specifically are here to do. The universe voted yes, and I want you to understand what that yes means in practical terms, not just as a spiritual comfort, but as an operational reality for how you move through each day. The yes means you have access to intuition that will guide you if you get quiet enough to listen. Access to energy that replenishes when you are aligned with your purpose and depletes when you are not, and that depletion is information, not failure. Access to the right people arriving at the right time when you are genuinely on path. Access to ideas and insights and creative solutions that emerge not from grinding harder but from going deeper. Access to a level of resilience that surprises even you, that kicks in precisely when you have exhausted every resource you knew you had and discovers reserves you didn't know existed. The yes is not a passive blessing. The yes is an active partnership, and your side of the partnership is this: show up, stay honest, keep moving. Do not abandon the path when the path gets dark. Do not mistake the difficulty for rejection. The difficulty is the refinement process, and the yes is still in effect, has never been revoked, will never be revoked. Here is what the chosen one understands about time that most people don't. The chosen one understands that timing is a domain that belongs to the universe, not to the ego. You can control effort. You can control direction. You can control the quality of your presence and the integrity of your choices. You cannot control when things break open. You cannot force the harvest before the season is ready. And the greatest source of suffering for most high-potential people, more than external obstacles, more than lack of resources, more than circumstances, is the misalignment between their timeline and the universe timeline. They know they are meant for something. They can feel it with absolute certainty. They are doing the work. They are showing up, and it hasn't happened yet. And the ego, trained on immediate feedback loops, begins to interpret the delay as denial. But the universe delays are not denials. They are preparations. They are the time required for conditions you cannot see to align. They are the universe saying, not yet, because if it came now, before this piece was in place, before that connection was made, before you had grown to this level, it would not hold. Wait, not forever. Just long enough. The chosen one learns to make peace with the wait without surrendering the work. There is a quality that separates the people who ultimately fulfill their potential from the people who carry their gifts to the grave without ever fully expressing them. That quality is not talent. It is not intelligence. It is not connections or resources or timing or luck. It is this, the willingness to be seen before you feel ready. The chosen one, at some point, must become visible, must step out of the comfortable darkness of potential and into the exposed light of expression. And that step from the private belief in your own calling to the public declaration of it through your work and your presence, that step is the one that requires the greatest courage, because when you are visible, you are available for judgment, for misunderstanding, for people who will look at what you are building and feel threatened by it, who will attack it not because it is wrong but because it represents a level of self-belief that their own inner critic cannot tolerate in someone else. The chosen one must become willing to be misunderstood, must be willing to continue building even when the audience doesn't arrive immediately, must be willing to stand in the truth of their calling even when standing there feels lonely and exposed and frighteningly uncertain. And yet, and this is the paradox, that only the chosen one truly gets to experience the moment, become willing to be seen, to be visible, to be expressed. Something shifts. It is as if the universe has been waiting for that willingness as a signal of readiness, as if the very act of stepping into visibility is the key that unlocks the next level of support. People find your work who were looking for exactly what you are offering. Opportunities emerge from directions you weren't monitoring. The thing that felt so fragile and uncertain when you were protecting it in private turns out to be far more resilient, far more resonant, far more real than you dared to believe when you were alone with it. This is the chosen one's discovery. The gift is not yours to hoard. It is yours to express. And expression is not self-promotion. Expression is service. Every time you share what you have been given, you are fulfilling the purpose of the gift. The gift was never meant to remain inside you, growing more perfect in protected darkness. The gift was meant to move, to travel from where it was given to where it is needed. You are the conduit. Become visible and let it move. Let's speak about the people who came before you, the ancestors, both biological and spiritual, who walked the path and made it possible for you to walk yours. The ones who, in their time, faced versions of the same fear and the same doubt and the same crushing weight of unlived potential. Some of them broke under the weight. Some of them laid the gift down and turned away from the path because the cost seemed too high. In that particular season of history and circumstance, and some of them the ones whose light you have carried in your cells, in your spirit, in your deepest knowing, some of them went all the way. They paid every price. They bore every weight. They walked through every fire and emerged on the other side carrying something that changed the world they lived in, that echoed forward through time, that eventually, through a chain of influence and inspiration longer than any individual lifespan, reached you. You are the forward point of that line. Everything they carried, everything they endured, everything they transmitted, it has been building toward you, toward this moment, toward what you are about to do with what they gave you. Honor them by going further. The unanimous vote was not just cast by the stars and the quantum field and the architecture of space-time. The unanimous vote was cast by every soul who ever needed someone exactly like you to exist. The people who will be changed by your work they voted. The ones who will finally feel less alone because of the truth you were willing to speak they voted. The ones who needed someone to go first, to demonstrate that it was possible, to provide the permission slip for their own becoming they voted. Every person who will ever be touched by what you create and build and offer and express cast their vote in the cosmic assembly, in the place before time where all potential is held, and said, we need this one. We need this exact one, with this exact wound and this exact gift and this exact fire. We need this one to not give up. We need this one to rise. You were chosen because you were needed. not needed in the abstract, needed specifically, needed urgently, needed now, in this time, in this world, at this particular inflection point in human history when what you carry is exactly what is required. So here is your charge, not a suggestion, not an inspirational thought for the day that fades by the time you reach the parking lot. A charge, the kind that the elders gave to the initiate at the end of the ceremony, when the preparation was complete and the real life was beginning. Go and be what you were assembled to be. Stop waiting for perfect conditions, because perfect conditions are a story the fear tells to keep you in place they are not coming. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission, because the permission was granted at the moment of your creation, before you could ask for it. Stop waiting to feel ready, because the feeling of readiness is a post hoc experience. It arrives after you start moving, not before. Stop treating your gift as something to be perfected in private until some future moment, when you finally earn the right to share it. The gift is not yours to gatekeep. The gift belongs to the people who are waiting for it. Go, move, begin, continue, fall down and get up. Build in the dark and trust the light is coming. Speak the truth you were given to speak and let it find the ears that were waiting for it. The vote has been cast. The assembly is watching. The only question remaining is whether you will accept. And you will, because you are still here. Because after everything, after every season of doubt and difficulty and distance from yourself, you are still here, still listening, still carrying the ember. That ember is the proof. If the calling were not real, it would have been extinguished long ago by the accumulated weight of disappointment. If you were not chosen, the feeling would have faded by now, replaced by comfortable resignation. But it hasn't faded. It burns differently than it did, not with the naive brightness of youth's first dreams, but with the deep, steady, knowing heat of something that has survived everything and is therefore no longer subject to extinction. That ember is your yes back to the universe. That ember is your acknowledgement of the vote. That ember is the beginning not of something new, but of something that was always true finally being allowed to become visible. Fan it, feed it, let it become the fire it was always meant to be. The chosen one has arrived. The chosen one is reading these words. The chosen one is you, and the universe has been certain of that since before you had the capacity to doubt it.